Bellerin, Bellerin, it's a Bellerin.
Owned by Mustafi. Bellerin, brilliant! 2-2.
Hector Bellerin, Bellerin, Hector Bellerin. Dat is het. Ja.
It's Friday. The clock is ticking, and we're still waiting. All right. Welcome to the Friday evening edition of Saved by the Bellerin, the Arsenal football podcast here on the Sports Talk Line Network. Joining you from the United States, I'm Raphael. Joining me from London are my Arsenal buddies, Ryan. I'm going to start at the bottom today. Ryan, welcome back to the show.
Hello, sir. Hope you're doing well.
I am doing well, and above him on your video pod dial is Sam. Welcome back, Sam.
Hello, mate. How's things?
We're all kind of hanging in suspense. Let's get to it. It's Friday evening, as I mentioned. We got a lot of cover on the show: transfers, possible transfers, and yesterday's match against Liverpool, where Arsenal advanced in a shootout in the Carabao Cup. They're now in the quarters, and they gained City for all of their trouble. But that's for the moment. Let's get to it. Everybody wants to know what's the latest on Houssem Aouar, what's the latest on Thomas Partey. Let's begin with Aouar. Ryan, let's bring you in. A lot of chatter. It seems like there's a lot of disinformation. 24 hours or 48 hours ago, we said it was this close, and now it seems to be this close. If I get my fingers tighter, I can't quite touch them together because that would mean he's coming. The deal is not done, but a deal is not falling apart. Last I've heard, the clubs are talking. Do you have anything to add to that?
I mean, it's just following the same pathway as every single Arsenal transfer. I posted on the Saved by the Bellerin Twitter account what the Lyon president had said about Lacazette in 2016 and 2017, which is nearly almost word for word exactly what he said about Houssem Aouar. So it's following the same pathway. Every transfer Arsenal seem to have PSG are there. They're going to stump us. They're going to offer more money, blah, 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 blah. It's always the same thing. And the clubs are still in talks. I'm starting to think the talks are more structure of payments now, rather than actual fee and all that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Because obviously with Lyon, they're going to want most of the money up front, rather in guaranteed equity in the next couple of years or whatever. So they're going to want most of it up front. So we're just trying to agree the best deal for both parties. As soon as that's done, I think he'll be on his way over here for a medical and sign off the paperwork.
So let's talk about some, main issues, because I think this makes people nervous. Again, we're Friday, there's not a deal. I think I want to do a little rapid fire here. Is it going to fall apart in your opinion? I mean, it seems if they're this close, I think everybody is invested in finishing this.
Yeah, in my opinion, I don't think it's going to fall apart. I think it's too far down the line for both clubs to be like, oh, do you know what? We don't want this to happen now. Because Lyon have brought their replacement already. They've outlaid 20 million euros on the replacement. They're in dire need of funds, because not for transfers or FFP, just for their general running of the club. Mm-hmm. They need money for that. Because their president Ulis said that they've lost 100 million euros because of COVID, and they've not recouped that or anywhere near that to make up for it.
And so you're still spending money, right? Right?
Exactly. Jeffrey Adelaide's move looks dead in the water. Barcelona are hoping on Dembele going to United to get Depay. So really, the only offer that Lyon have on the table is Arsenal's for Aouar, because PSG's was a deferred payment for next season, so they weren't going to get any of the money until next year. And then Juve's interest, which was called a smokescreen by French papers, but their offer was also a loan with an obligation next summer. So either way, the only money they'll get this summer is from Arsenal. And I don't think that Lyon are going to just be like, do you know what, we'll just keep him for a year, because they can't for the general running of the club.
And we talked about this. Let's say something else that I think bears. We should push it up front. Is that we looked at the Gabriel deal and we talked about, there was a lot of chatter in Italian press. There was a gentleman's agreement between Napoli and Lille for Gabriel, and everybody, all the people who like to run around with their hair on fire were running around with their hair on fire saying, "Oh no, Arsenal's blown it. Arsenal's blown it." And we kept saying the player has a say, right? And we saw a statement yesterday, and I don't know if it was directly from the player or from one of his representatives, but it said he is interested in going abroad. And to me, when I saw that, he doesn't want to embarrass a team, but that was him directly or indirectly saying, "I want to go to England. I want to go to Arsenal." To me, that's how I read it.
I agree 100%. That's how I read it as well. And it did actually say Aouar wants to go abroad, so it gives Arsenal the edge in this race, which sounds very familiar to the Gabriel transfer, because Arsenal had the edge in the race because of the great conversation he had with his agent. And I feel like this is exactly the same thing. Arteta has reportedly been a big fan of Aouar since 2017, when Lyon beat City at the Etihad when Guardiola was suspended. Arteta was on the sideline acting as manager. So I can see this one definitely going through. It's just whether Lyon agree to how we want to set the payments up. And that's my opinion anyway.
All right, let's bring Sam in. He's been waiting very, very patiently. All right, Sam, Aouar, we don't need to belabor that one any longer, but there's another big one. Lucas Torreira is in Madrid, right? He put photos out. He's there with his family. He's an Atletico Madrid player now, as of this moment. Okay, that creates a spot in the midfield. What does that do for the odds, the likelihood of Thomas Partey finally coming in the opposite direction?
I've always said my belief is that we will be triggering the clause of Thomas Partey, and there's been too much smoke around to say that Arsenal won't do anything in regards to Thomas Partey, because our interest in him has been there since last summer. And you've got to think along the lines of, if we've been talking to him for what now? More or less 8 months.
9 months, yeah. Certainly since the January window.
So we've been talking to him for a hell of a long time now. And to say, oh, you know what? Actually, we've spoken to you all this time. Like to say to you, we'd like to take you to Arsenal. We can offer you X amount. We want you in our club. To then turn around and go, actually, no, that doesn't reflect in good faith or good business for Arsenal. So for me, I think that, I know we hold all the cards in regards to Thomas Partey, because we could literally leave it all the way down to the final hours and then just go to Atletico and say, you know what, we're activating the clause. Because you've got to think, in the media, Atletico Madrid has been extremely cocky when it comes to Thomas Partey, in my opinion. They're going, oh yeah, we're off the belief he's staying. That's good, you could be off the belief, but you've got no control over whether he stays or goes at the end of the day. As soon as that release clause has been hit, it's game over for you guys. Like, obviously, what people have got to realise as well, Arsenal have been trying to negotiate with Atletico Madrid in terms of doing a player plus cash deal. And that stems with Lucas Torreira, although media have turned around and said that the two aren't connected. They are in a way, because Lucas Torreira is coming in for Thomas Partey's position. So, if you connect the dots, it's just a matter of time, in my opinion.
Now, let's look at the fundamentals. Again, rhetoric pops up, social media rhetoric pops up in the papers. We got to look at the fundamentals. As you said, Arsenal apparently have agreed terms with this guy, as they have with Houssem Aouar, going back months, right? We know Arsenal can offer him a salary that he's not getting at Atletico. We know that the money that they've offered to Luis Suarez is not going to make him happy. There has been nothing from the Atletico side, on the Atletico operations, the day-to-day, that would make you more confident that he's let them know. Again, he would have signed already, as we've been saying for months. So fundamentally, I think at this point, if Torreira's there, maybe they're saying they have to move another player out. I think it's, again, this is my 2 cents. I think they're just waiting for that clause to be triggered. Arsenal, I think, is just waiting to clear out space to make a position for Thomas Partey. I think that's the biggest holdup. At least that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I believe so. As we said on the pod for God knows how many weeks now, it's been a simple fact of we need to create squad space. It's not the fact that we can't afford, we're skint, we're broke. It's the matter of the fact our squad is too big as it stands at the moment. So we need to get rid of a couple of players for Thomas and Aouar both to come in. Now, with Torreira going out, that opens up for Aouar. What we need now is either one of Mustafi, Kolasinac, or Socrates to leave, and there's Thomas's space. But with some of these people who are in the last year of their contracts, if Arsenal are serious for Thomas Partey, I would probably put a hefty bet on Arsenal terminating when it comes down to, say, final day, terminating one of the guys' contracts or saying, look, you're not going to be registered for this upcoming season. We'll do a mutual termination of your deal and then bring Partey in, or literally not register somebody, although that is bad business, whatever way you look at it. Not register someone, but keep them as an option for Cup and Europa League. But there's still a number of avenues that Arsenal can go down in regards to opening up squad space.
Ryan, let's take Sam's point. Obviously, we're looking at the veterans, but an eye-opening rumor came this morning that Arsenal is looking to send William Saliba out on year-long loan. Obviously, he's not progressing as quickly as we'd hoped. He has not played a minute with the big club in any of their competitions yet. He's played a couple of under 23 matches for fitness, we'd assume. And they obviously, for his development, it would stand to reason that you want him playing every week. And if he's not playing there, again, it's not, I think, what Arsenal fans would want. But if he goes out on loan, does that create a space that then makes these other two incomings more possible?
No, I don't think him leaving actually creates a squad space because he's under 18. He doesn't count as a non-homegrown player yet. I think when he turns 21 is when he counts. And to go back on him not progressing, there's been a lot of talk today that he's had a tough year. His mum sadly passed away. So as a 19-year-old going to a new country, your mum's obviously just passed. You've had numerous injuries and whatnot. Come into Arsenal with the expectation that all of us fans have had on him. He's the next big thing. He's going to be the Mbappe of centre-backs. It's going to be hard on him mentally. And if sending him on loan for a season back to France so he can be closer to his family, I think that might be a better option than to have him here sitting on the bench or playing under 23 games which aren't as competitive as, say, the League Cup or the FA Cup or the Europa League. But saying that, our draw got made today for the Europa League. Our group is, I don't want to sound disrespectful, it's not the hardest of groups. So me personally, I can see the reasoning behind sending him on loan, like for him as a person and mentally for him. But when you look at our Europa League group, I would keep him. He can get valuable experience in Europe playing Europa League football with us. We can save David Luiz and Rob Holding for the league if we can keep him.
All right. Again, let's go back to the topic at the top of the show, which is the clock is ticking. It's Friday. We are now 3 days away from deadline day. And since we have a good group of you here, we want to reiterate that we are going to be live pretty much all day on deadline day. If you want to come back here to say about the Bellerin, check in throughout the day, see if Arsenal are making any late moves in or out. And given where we are right now, as of this minute, as 2:45 in my part of the world, 8:45 in these gentlemen's part of the world, we may be sweating out the last minute move, as Ryan said at the beginning. It's the Arsenal way. Sam, let's take that up though. With so little time left and so many parts still in motion, is this a time to temper our expectations? I think everybody's still hopeful that Partey and Aouar, when this is all said and done, come in, but we were perhaps looking at maybe a surprise third player. Is that window closing, or is it still too early to say? I mean, 3 days, well, really 4 days, we're still in Friday. That's a lot of time.
Yeah, I say there is still a lot of time. I know people will start to panic at this point. I've seen it online. I've seen it in group chats that I'm in. People are panicking in regards to the deals that are in the pipeline at the moment. And to be perfectly honest with you, it isn't the time to panic because, as we've seen previously at Arsenal, we've brought 5 in on deadline day. So, it's not a time to panic until we're getting, I'd probably say, within the last 2 hours of the window, and God forbid nothing happens, then yeah, that'll be the time for panic. But I have complete faith in Arteta, Edu and Vinay to get what we need. Watching Mikel's press conference this afternoon, he had that cheeky grin on his face, and you know how we're all suckers for a grin. So for me, I think
a meme, right? It is a meme.
So I think I can only assume that the club are confident in putting off what they're expecting to do, and if a certain striker arises on the market in the final day, then I think that he'll fully be at Arsenal. But I think a lot of that depends around Lacazette, and as I just said into the chat, I think if an offer that comes in Arsenal deems suitable, they may take that and then go for said striker. But a lot of it depends on Lacazette, in my opinion.
All right. One more question, Ryan, regarding the market. I mean, obviously Sam is hinting at a striker. We haven't said his name. We know he plays up in the Scottish League. We'll talk about him probably on Monday quite a bit. Maybe we'll have more than just idle speculation. But given that there's so many players Arsenal wants to go out, is there any player that we haven't discussed aside from the obvious, from Mustafi, from Kolasinac, from the back line, the older players who we know Arsenal want to move? Is there anybody in the roster? I think Sam kind of hinted at perhaps Lacazette. Do we close the door on that, or is that also in play? I mean, there hasn't really been an obvious market for a player like Alex Lacazette, but could an offer come in? He's still scoring goals. He's been pinging in goals every game, it seems.
Yeah, David Ornstein said that Roma were actually interested in Lacazette. I think it was last week he said it, but Roma didn't offer anything suitable towards Arsenal. So Lacazette does have a market. We just have to push for that market. He scored 3 and 3 in the league so far, so it's a good start. If he can carry on that form on Sunday against Sheffield United, who knows, we might see a late offer or maybe make weight in a certain deal for a certain midfielder, but we'll see. And just going back to Aouar quickly, I've just seen something on Twitter from Telefoot. They said Torreira leaving Arsenal has accelerated the deal for Houssem Aouar. Clubs are back talking this evening, pushing for a deal. So again, Arsenal were in intense negotiations this morning for him, and now pushing for a deal this evening. So that tells me the price is right, It's just the clauses now. It's like the last final details if they're really pushing for a deal now this time of night.
You never get away from Jean-Michel Aulas easy, do you? Ever.
Never.
Okay. Sam, let's talk about yesterday. Arsenal played cup match. They went back to Anfield where they'd lost on Monday. Different result this time, different rotation. Let's take a little bit of time with this because, again, it's an accomplishment to go to Anfield and win, no matter the level of competition, no matter the level of the roster. Interesting lineup. Dani Ceballos was in. Let's start with that. He was creative from the beginning, and I think we were talking about this during the match on Monday, how much he improved the attack when he entered the midfield over El Neni. It kind of had us scratching, saying, what if Mikel had started him on Monday? But it was clear his value as the midfield is comprised right now.
Yeah, I think as our midfield right now, Dani Ceballos, I would probably say, is our most valuable asset in that midfield. I know that may raise some questions around certain people. Some people will say that it's Xhaka, but for me, going forward, Dani Ceballos is the most valuable for us, and we need him to be starting in games because he just offers us so much more than what Xhaka and El Neni can do. El Neni and Xhaka are just too similar in terms of player. They don't tend to take the risky pass forward. They've both got turning circles like tugboats. They literally cannot get out of a high press. So with Dani Ceballos, he's always looking to be playing on that half turn. So yeah, Dani, when he come on, was superb. I think in the game yesterday, I watched it again this morning. It was a tough game for Arsenal. I think it was a bit scrappy for both sides, but when we had the ball down and able to play, I think Dani was able to have that little bit of freedom, but ultimately it was more us defending than doing any sort of meaningful attacks, barring a few chances. But yeah, ultimately the tactics what Mikel's implementing, getting 3 wins out of 4 over Liverpool within the last couple of months, must be doing something right.
Yeah, and he didn't try to reinvent the wheel, as you were saying. You know, we saw in Monday's match early for the first goal where Xhaka took a ball deep and actually made that long pass, released, I think it was Maitland-Niles on the wing, or it was Saka maybe. He set up Lacazette for the goal. We saw something almost identical even earlier in the match. Xhaka looked up. I think he was told it's going to be there. He played Pepe in. Pepe kind of worked it through the middle. It wound up on Eddie Nketiah's foot. He bad bounce. He couldn't one-time it, and it went away. But that's, you were talking about it. There is a certain, when they play clubs like City, when they play Liverpool, that counter attack, it works through the sides, it works from deep. We can see that players like Aouar are missing, but it works most of the time.
Yeah, it certainly does. The only time it doesn't work, and that's what we saw in the game against Liverpool before yesterday, was that they instantly pressed Xhaka, so they knew where the ball was going. So with that, Xhaka didn't have the time to pick his head up, and then pick that pass. He was getting pressed within 2-3 seconds of receiving the ball, and the game yesterday, you noticed he had a lot more space and time to actually do what he does best in terms of sending that ball over the top and implementing the pattern of play that Arteta wants us to be doing at this point in time. So I think with that, it worked on a couple of occasions, but I just think moving forward as a team, if we haven't got more creativity in the middle, teams are going to find that pattern of play extremely predictable, and it's something that we need to be very wary of. But ultimately, as it is at the moment, it is working.
All right, let's move to the back, because again, another lineup change. Ceballos in the midfield. We got to see Gabriel in the middle of the back three. That was the only change. I think David Luiz sat down. Gabriel came in. He just looks sturdy, solid, confident, like he's been there for a long time.
Yeah, I cannot rave about this guy any more than what I have done on the pod already. He literally gives us so much more at the back. He's just so reassuring considering the type of defenders that we've had previously. He's that modern centre-back that will take the ball, that will strive out of defence. But if somebody tries to run him as well, he's such a unit. He just won't allow that person to get by. And if they do, he takes it as like a personal offence. So he does everything in his power to try and get back at that player, but not be too rash about it and be silly and give away needless free kicks or fouls or penalties. It's the guy's just superb. Like, considering the amount of business at centre back that's been done this transfer window, 27 million bargain. We absolutely
Ridiculous.
got away with one there.
Just
Considering you think Nathan Ake was 41,
yeah,
and you think, what are these big clubs,
just
these
spent
big
65
clubs
in a
doing?
panic buy, right?
Yeah. Like, and I think as well, you've got to give props to our new ways of scouting, the way the scouting has been taking place, because I'd imagine a lot of the scouting went through stat DNA and also with a lot of video analysis. So that's the way that we're moving forward. And if that's the type of player we're bringing in on that type of deal, hey, I'm all for it.
Outsmarting the market. Raul's not in here anymore, but we'll take his term and we'll keep using it.
Yep.
Ryan, you have a bone to pick, and I'm going to let you pick it here. Both Liverpool matches, you had to swat down a lot of knee jerking against Arsenal's keeper, and Bernd Leno, in that second half especially, saved this club and really, I think, showed why he's the number one at the club.
Yeah, and what he said after the game just showed his mentality. I was the number one, I am the number one, and I'm going to be the number one. So I think that says everything you need to know about his mentality, what the club has obviously told him, what Arteta shared with him in his vision of how he wants Bernd to play. And he's backing it up. That's two great performances against Liverpool. Probably the toughest team in Europe to play against, especially away. And he saves two penalties. That save against Van Dijk in the second half, outstanding. And no doubt, Emi Martinez was great when he came in when Leno was injured. But people seem to forget how good Leno was before he got injured, before lockdown. Leno was literally keeping us from a relegation battle every week. You think of how many shots he had to face against other teams under Emery, 20, 30 shots a game. And somehow we managed to still keep knocking on the door for top four, mainly because of him and Aubameyang. So he's proved his worth, and yeah, he was brilliant last night as well.
Let's stay with this. Let's talk about the shootout, because I mean, we talked about Leno. You talked about Leno. We were also, I'm going to bring both of you guys in here. A lot of comments about some really cheeky goal takers for Arsenal. Sam, let's talk about Ainsley Maitland-Niles. I mean, we were joking about him. I saw a video montage that some brilliant person compiled, and it showed like 6-8 penalties he's taken in the last couple of years. He walks up, he saunters up to the spot. It looks like he's been at a party and he's thrown like 2 or 3 stiff cocktails down. He's loose. He just kind of like ambles up there like half speed, and then he drills it. He doesn't miss.
My guy is ice cold at penalties. Like, honestly, like, you think the only technique I can really say that's close to is Pogba's, and with his, he with Paul Pogba's, there's probably about a 50% chance. With Maitland-Niles, you're looking 100%. The guy is so relaxed and ice cold, and I love the way that he just stared the keeper down afterwards and just walked away laughing. Brilliant.
And he's not predictable. Some are in the top or kind of float into the top. He drills it in the lower corner. He picks the upper corners. He's very unpredictable, but he just, as you said, he looks almost like so nonchalant. If you're an Arsenal fan, it's wonderful. But I mean, he's giving his manager heart attacks when he does this.
Hey, if he's going to be putting the penalties away, then he can give Arteta all the heart attacks he likes. The way that he's going at the moment, I'd be as bold to say, if you were looking at, say, a big game win, penalty final seconds, I'd be saying, if he's on the pitch, Maitland-Niles, up your steps, son. I'd put my trust in this guy every time. And
Ryan, let's talk about this, because I mean, Arsenal under Arteta has kind of punched above their weight. They've had to beat City in the cup run in. They had to beat Liverpool. They've had to win a few shootouts against bigger clubs who finished higher than them, whose rosters, let's just face it, at this point in time, are better than Arsenal's. I mean, there's no shame in saying that, you know. And part of that is Arsenal is, you can tell this is part of the coaching and part of the instruction. These guys work at shootouts, they work at their penalties, and when they come around, I think El Neni's miss I think that's the only one I've seen them have in any of these, and like they've had 3 really important ones in the last year. That's just another aspect of that confidence, that cheekiness, as Sam was pointing out, that cold-bloodedness that this team is starting to acquire.
Yeah, and I said it on Twitter, the one that really impressed me, I mean, Maitland-Niles obviously impressed me, but the one that stood out for me was Pepe. My guy took the last penalty in the shootout. If he misses, we're out. We lose the game. He's lacking in confidence. He's not started a game in the league for us. He's barely played. He comes up, sends the keeper the wrong way, buries it into the bottom corner, turns around and laughs at Adrian and runs off. I mean, it's just the cold-bloodedness of this team is unbelievable. Lacazette's penalty, stuttered the penalty spot, banged it into the corner. It's not
2 steps, just like 1, 2, done, right?
Exactly. And you think our best penalty taker wasn't even on the pitch. Aubameyang's at home. Cedric's penalty. It's like these guys are just so confident and playing with so much freedom under Arteta. They're willing to try whatever. And you can see that in how they shoot, how many times, or how they want to score their goals. Because you think, we don't really score any scrappy goals anymore. They're all well crafted, or they're into the top corner, fired in. And it shows with the penalties as well. In the Community Shield, all penalties were perfect. Last night, except for the exception of El Nene and maybe Joe Willock, all penalties were perfect.
Yeah, it's just a higher, a stronger mindset, I think is the takeaway. All right, Sam, another match coming up quickly, then a break. You know, we hope that they're playing Sheffield. Sheffield, very different team this season. They were maybe the surprise in the Prem last year. They finished just battling for Europa the entire time. For a while, look, maybe they might have an outside shot at the top 4. They've really struggled early this season. Good matchup for Arsenal in your eyes? This point of the season, match 4?
Usually I'd say yeah. But with teams that struggle, we seem to make them look like prime Brazil. It's just,
I'm laughing nervously about that because you're right.
I'd like to say we'd batter them 3-0, but I think that'll be a 2-1 victory to us. I think that we'll get a last 5-minute goal to be the winner.
All right, Ryan, we know how this club's going to play. They're going to play. Sheffield's going to play very close to the vest. That's how they played when they were winning. I can't imagine they're going to change it now that they're struggling. They're going to make it hard for Arsenal. How do you see Arsenal breaking them down?
I was asked this question actually on Twitter today in my DMs. What what my prediction was for the weekend, and I said I'm struggling to see how Arsenal are going to get through, because Sheffield United play with 5 defenders and 3 midfielders, 2 strikers. That is going to be tough to break down, especially when we only have one creative midfielder in Ceballos. There's going to be no space on the wings because they have the two wide centre backs and the 2 wing backs. So I think we're going to see a struggle. I do think I think it's going to be 1-1. I'm going conservative. I think it's going to be 1-1, but praying that we get a last-minute goal, like Sam says.
Okay. All right. And we'll stop it there. Again, nothing has bled through in the last half hour that we've been on the air, but we will keep our eyes on all these transfers, as I'm sure you are at home, checking social media repeatedly. Come back on Monday. Join us. Again, we're going to start early, and we're going to go all the way up to the moment the clock stops. Hopefully we'll have some really good transfers. Hopefully we walk in and we start the show with good transfers to announce. But if we have to wait till deadline day, that's the Arsenal way. We know that. We'll take deep breaths and we'll do it, and we'll come through with the club. So again, we thank you all for joining us live. We thank all of you for joining us those of you who are watching us or listening to us on all the various podcasting platforms. Until we see you again on Monday. For Sam, for Ryan, I'm Raphael. Have a good weekend. We'll see you, good result on Sunday, and we'll see you again on Monday.